Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. And I would like to start with kind of a recap with providing you with experiences of the view. It's really important that the view be understood. If not, then what happens is that you may be confused, and that confusion would be my fault because I did not specify clearly the view that needs to be taken. And with these particular teachings that have been kept secret for hundreds of years, it's a responsibility. They are now starting to come forth. Sokni Rinpoche, Mingyo Rinpoche, many of the Rinpoches are now starting to share these teachings with you because of the time that we are in, these times of confusion, major confusion. And because of that, the responsibility is because these teachings are so direct that they're easily misunderstood. And so today I would like to kind of recap of a few of the really important points and give you examples as to how to clarify your own meditation practice with your experience to make sure that your experience is accurate. With that, I'm going to share with you some things online. I think you have a view of a presentation that I have here for today where I'm going to be selective, as well as just some things that I have in print that I'm going to read and share with you. So this first one is from Chogyal Namkai Norbu, who died fairly recently. He was a great Bön practitioner. Trungpa Rinpoche, my root guru, Trungpa Rinpoche also, with Khenpo Gangshar and so forth, that was their main teachers for both of them, one of their main teachers. And Trungpa Rinpoche was a Bön Turton, which a lot of people don't really know, but these teachings are mainly the Dzogchen teachings are very akin to the Bön teachings. This is the quote from Chogyal Namkai Norbu. Although meditation is helpful if we want to continuously be in our real nature, meditation alone is not sufficient. Normally, we can meditate half an hour or maybe 1 hour. Some people can sit for 2 or 3 hours a day, but that's it. During the other 22 or 23 hours, we live in complete distraction, especially in this modern world where we have to work, raise children, pay our bills. And we also need time to cook, to eat, and to sleep. So how can we possibly remain in the state of our real nature 24 hours a day, week after week, year after year? The answer is that we need to integrate everything we do in that state. Integration is a key Dzogchen practice, and it is integration that makes this teaching particularly useful in these modern times, when people do not have much time to sit alone and meditate or go to some cave and stay in retreat for years and years. Integration means that while we go about our daily life, we are not remaining in a dualistic vision. Remember the example of the mirror? We look in the mirror, we see our reflection and say, oh, this is my reflection. This is a dualistic vision. Non-dualistic vision means to be in the nature of the mirror. We don't see reflections, we reflect everything. This is just our potentiality. We do not need to separate ourselves from the reflections and judge them. When we have this capacity, it means there is no difference between meditation and non-meditation, because everything and every moment of our life is integrated into our real nature. So saying that, I want to kind of go back to the 9 yanas that we originally talked about, and also to differentiate ordinary mind from transcendental mind. So ordinary mind in Tibetan is referred to as sem, S-E-M. And this is the mind that's it's the same mind as the transcendental mind, but it's used in a different way. We need to distinguish how things are as opposed to how they manifest. And so that's one of the important factors. Identifying with ordinary consciousness gives rise to ego. An example, we begin to realize that our insight into another person is restricted by how the person appears to us. We are restricted to seeing them based on how we apprehend their appearance and behavior. So much, we make so much of the projections that we get about people just on the visual appearance themselves. I remember with my students in school, I would say to them, if you're going for an interview, you want to make sure, because you have no idea how this person is going to perceive you, that you need to project the image that they're looking for and so on. And so that's very important. So the transcendental aspect is not embellished, polluted, or contaminated by ordinary consciousness. We can transcend ego. And then I talked about the nine jhanas. And the nine jhanas is really important because it basically shows the progression of the path. So we have the Hinayana, which is the Shravakayana and Pratyeka Buddha yana. This is like listening. You're just starting to listen and hear something that might be interesting to you. That's the Shravakayana. And the Pratyekayana Buddha is okay, he's listening now and so on, but he's going to kind of do his own thing. So that's kind of the vehicle of the solitary realizer. Then when we hit the third yana, the Bodhisattva yana, now we have the Kriya Tantra Yana, which is concerned with conduct. So this is kind of now you're kind of paying attention to what they're saying. So all of a sudden, your conduct, your actions are starting to come into the picture and you're starting to purify. The ritual purification and cleanliness becomes very important in the Kriya Yoga Tantra, which is the fourth yana. The fifth yana, the Charya Tantra yana, emphasizes the outer actions of body and speech and the inner cultivation of samadhi. So you can see how you're beginning to progress. The Yoga Tantrayana, the inner yogic meditation on reality, is combining skillful means and wisdom. So now we're getting into the yoga tantras. The seventh yana, Mahayoga yana, is the development stage. Clarity and precision of the visualization as skillful means. And this is a gradual process. Right now, you're starting to work with sadhanas and with practices and so forth. The eighth yana, that's when you finally step into Tantra, to the Vajrayana. And you start with Anu Yoga Yana, which is the eighth yana, and it focuses on the completion stage, the inner channels, winds, energies, the instant visualization of deities. So still, we haven't gotten to the Dzogchen. Now we're at the Dzogchen, the ninth yana, the Ati Yoga Yana, where all phenomena are only appearances of the naturally arising primordial wisdom, which is beyond arising and ceasing. So now we're talking about essence, Buddha nature, your essence. They say that it is the emptiness and clarity or luminosity that is the basic essence of our energy. We talk about that and we use the analogy of the ocean. Our basic energy, our primal purity, that is an ocean of luminosity, clarity. In other words, there's a knowing quality, but there are no characteristics. It's like a thought. You have a thought, but it's empty. There's no form, feeling, color, whatever. It's just emptiness and then dissolves back into emptiness when it arises and then drops back down into the emptiness. That is the ocean. And at the top of the ocean, you have emotions and thoughts. Thoughts that are the waves at the top of the ocean. And you have eventually thoughts, strong enough thoughts become emotions. As you think about it more and more, you feed it energy. The more energy it has, the stronger it becomes, the more involved, and you lose the essence of the space. You lose the knowledge of the ocean. You've left the ocean now, you're totally into the waves at the top of the ocean. Your awareness of the ocean, although it's there, it never leaves, it's always there, is now someplace else. So you have in Ati Yoga Yana, Dzogchen deals with one's existential being, the fulfillment of one's full potential. You're dealing mainly with the ocean. Your attention is on the ocean. All of your focus and awareness is on the ocean and what arises, but you never leave the ocean. That sense of ocean, the awareness of ocean is always present. So, from the Dzogchen point of view, as soon as one uses a technique to realize or gain something, one has automatically changed, modified, or in a sense contrived the original natural state of mind. Ego is still present. Because even in the fruition of Mahamudra, there is no ego. So the ground is then to discover and experience the natural state, your primal purity, Buddha. That is the ground. You must have that experience. So how do you achieve that? You achieve that through the practice of stability of mind, shine, shamatha, and vipassana. So vipassana automatically, organically becomes from shine, from shamatha practice. That's where vipassana actually arises from. It becomes that. So you have to have a grounding. You have to have some stability of mind so that you can recognize the stillness and the movement. In the Hinayana tradition, the Zen and so forth, the focus is on the stillness of mind. When you start having movement, when you start noticing in your sitting practice of meditation, when you begin to start noticing the thoughts, the movement of the mind, now you're into Tantra. Now that goes into the Vajrayana state. It's important to have that because without that, there is no recognition of the ocean, of your basic essence, because you're too busy in thoughts. One comes in the next one and it carries you away, and you're just continually distracted in thoughts. So there's no opportunity for you except when, for instance, if your teacher points out the nature of mind, what they normally do is there'll be a loud sound or there'll be some sort of stopping of the mind, something unexpected that just puts you into an open space. What? You're walking and you're hurrying to get someplace and you turn a corner and you bump into someone and you realize in that moment, oh, that openness, that stopping of the regular flow of thoughts. So that is what you want. That is that moment. I also given the example, you're making a pot of soup and you say, here, taste this, see if it needs more salt. So that moment that you taste, then comes the thing, oh, it's too salty, or it's not too salty, or it's just fine. But that's the second thought. But the first thought, just the experience, and that's why the senses are so important because it's the smelling, tasting, and so forth that gives you the actual experience, the presence of awareness. That quality of being able to catch that moment, that glimpse, that is the basic essence of your being. That is it. So that openness doesn't have any judgment, doesn't have any. Now, you did judge that it was salty, but that was based on your experience of you like it this way or you don't like it that way. So it's based on some sort of judgment. But the actual experience that you have in that moment is completely open. You're going to taste it. You have no idea what that is yet. Then you taste the experience. Then comes the commentary behind that. That's how that's what basically Dzogchen is all about. You're going directly to the experience, you're going directly to the Buddha nature. And from there, you're not judging, criticizing, you're not going into the dualistic aspect of ego. You are staying with and just recognizing what that is from your wisdom point of view. But there's no judgment. There's no good, bad, yes, no, none of that. And that's where we have to be. That's what we have to be aware of. So when we have the Dzogchen base, right, the ground, what is that? So that basic essence of ground, of what you are, your energy, is basically emptiness, which is the essence. If you follow thought, there's nothing there. There's nothing that you can identify, no color, no stability, nothing. Nature is the second quality of that. And what is that? That's clarity, luminosity. So there's a knowing quality. Observing the thoughts and all our experiences of body, energy, and mind are part of our clarity, our nature. Essence and nature are not two different entities. They're two aspects of our real condition. And the third one is energy without interruption, constantly in motion, is a definitive knowledge. For instance, you're sitting where you are. Ah, but you can smell the incense if there's incense in your room. And you can see the light and you can see whatever reflection. So you have sight, you have smell, you have, if you're drinking anything or tasting anything, you have that. So all of your senses in every moment, if that changes, if the smell that you have changes to something, you're aware of that and you're aware that you're seeing and so forth. So there's constant interruption of motion. Something's constantly happening and so forth. So that's your essence, which is the emptiness. You have the nature, which is the clarity and the luminosity. And then you have the energy, which is without interruption, constantly moving, constantly going. So the movement of thought in the mind and everything that arises in the mind are considered to be part of our clarity. Mahamudra represents relative and absolute truth. You can't isolate yourself in pure vision. So a construction of the mind creates deities. This is the Mahamudra approach. You create a deity, transformation, a pure relative condition where everything is integrated and we go beyond concepts and achieve Mahamudra, which is the realization of mind's true nature, awareness and emptiness. In other words, when you become the deity, and you say, I prayers for all human beings, may all human beings be free of suffering, right? You don't say all human beings except for John and Tom and Susie and so forth. It's a pure perception. You're integrating everything into that view. And when you reside in that total pure view, you've integrated everything. There's nothing left out. It's completely pure. And one step further, now, if you're experiencing that and you go into a realm where there's no just open, but experiencing that state of openness and compassion that you are offering for all sentient beings, then you slide into Mahamudra, which has no verbal, and the end result of Mahamudra and the end result of Dzogchen are completely the same. So that's just different ways of getting their transformation. So in Hinayana, you have renunciation. You are giving up things, you're correcting your behavior. Tonglen is important because if this situation arises, you have a key of how you need to correct that situation, what the response should be in order for there to be no karma accumulated or for positive karma to be accumulated. However, so that is renunciation, Hinayana. When you get into the Mahayana, now we're talking about oneself actually wanting others to have the benefit of compassion, knowledge, love, happiness, and so forth. Now your life is dedicated to bringing that kind of awareness for everyone to enjoy, for everyone to experience. And no one is left out of that. So that is why Mahamudra is the path of transformation. So from the third yana to the eighth yana, this is all transformation because you're using the practice of deities to be able to achieve that. And then in the Dzogchen, you have the path of self-liberation because now your basic essence, your Buddha nature, there's nothing that is impure. It's what it is. There's positive and negative. Wisdom arises with ignorance. They arise together. So our job is to recognize the ignorance quality and basically tame that, not go there but you recognize it. It's part of the ocean. It's coming from the ocean. What you do with it when it arises is your awareness, your wisdom, and your discipline. So, so the real meaning of meditation contemplation is to dwell in our real nature, which includes movement, energy, and clarity. So the base never changes. Essence, nature, and energy, always there, always the same. Ocean is always there, regardless of what the thoughts are on the top, whatever's going on up here. The ocean is always the same. So if thoughts arise and we do not follow them, this is the state of contemplation. This clarity or instant presence is the enlightened state. When we have contact through the senses, think and judge, this is dualism, suffering. You see something and you say, and you have your own perception, your own projection of how you feel about that. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is ugly. Right? When you go there, but in the mirror, when you take the symbol of the mirror doesn't say, "Oh, this is ugly. This is beautiful. I'm going to manifest this. I'm going to, allow you to see, reflect that." No, no. So the ocean has everything with no judgment. It is what it is. That's what it is. That's why it's called self-liberation. You see it for what it is, and there's nothing. You're not looking at somebody else and judging them. You're completely looking at what's arising in your own basic essence. So we need to turn our awareness within ourselves, and this is Rigpa. This is what we call Rigpa. Not outside, judging, thinking, multiplying, our dualistic vision. Emptiness has clarity, and it manifests everything as energy without interruption. So that's why the Dzogchen path is the self-liberation path. So we learn self-responsibility because it's important to cultivate awareness and be responsible for ourselves. We're not blaming other people. We're not trying to do anything with any judgments. We're looking at ourselves, our ocean. The method is to work concretely and directly with your experience, our own individual experience. When you are in a state of contemplation, there's no concept of good or bad. You're just recognizing what it is, impure or pure. This is dualistic vision. You observe yourself instead of looking at objects. You see your limitations, condition, existence. You observe yourself rather than judging others. That's why they use the symbolism of the mirror, because everything that's put in front of it, it reflects both. And it's beyond judgment and analysis. You don't go there. It's what it is. You see exactly what the situation is. You don't make a judgment about it. But now your wisdom comes forth. And what you choose to do with that is manifesting in front of you comes from your wisdom. When you are in a state, when you are in your real nature, there is no change at all. You are not changing or transforming something. This is the meaning of self-liberation. I want to go now to how you work with how do you work with this concept of working with your basic energy, with your basic being. And so if we look at the procedures, so and here you bring your attention to where you are right now, and you stay with the energy without acting out or repressing. You notice how you're feeling pains, aches, sensations, heat and cold, places where you are tight or relaxed. What kind of mood are you in? What emotions do you notice? Now, the minute that you do that, the minute you bring your attention to what's the ocean, then that creates a space that helps you not to be carried away with the waves and thoughts at the top, because now you're noticing something. You're not just totally into and running away with whatever the emotion is at that point in time. So let emotions be and connect with what they feel like. Be willing to feel some discomfort. This is coming from Sokni Rinpoche. Emotions as a path of awakening is based on simply letting the emotion be just as it is. Don't suppress or be carried away. Relate to their basic substance. Seeing emotions as they are is the practice of shunyata, emptiness. Emotions are seen through, they're recognized. The emotion, you recognizing it. Oh, this is the ultimate practice of nonviolence, no good or bad. So Trungpa Rinpoche has us work with the warrior path. We are warriors, and what the warrior is not based on making war. The warrior is on fearlessness, working with your fear, being a warrior, recognizing your fear when it arises, and not turning away from it. You are looking into your state of mind. So we face forward, going into and through the fear, and we give birth to warriorship. We are a warrior. We're going to face our fear. We learn to recognize first thought or direct experience itself, and the second thought, the conceptual elaboration on the direct experience. And this is what I'd said before about the soup. You're tasting the soup, you have the experience. And then the second thought, oh, it's to this, it's to that. So you have an experience, and then you have some commentary or judgment about that experience. That is the second thought. So we basically are going to stay with the first thought. We're going to be there. Well, there is no thought in the first thought. Basically, there's the experience, but the judgment that comes after it is what we are not going into, or we're recognizing it for what it is. So we make a commitment to ourselves to hold our spot and face our fear. What happens from there is dependent on how skillful we have learned to be. And as we said last time, attempting to be genuine is enough to show you your fear. You say, okay, I'm going to be genuine from here on out. And the minute you meet someone or you're in a situation where you find that you have the opposing view of everybody where you are, there's a hesitancy on your part to actually not only reveal that, but to act skillfully with and still be genuine to what your true feelings are about something. So experiencing the fear and not the cowardice allows the breakthrough from the cocoon of habitual patterns. And the habitual patterns are the things we always have to try to get away from. Well, not necessarily get away from because we're carrying them with us all the time. Habitual patterns are what we are undoing. As we learn to recognize them, we're learning to undo them so that the wisdom shines forth. And through the wisdom, we know what the skillful action would be. It's not because this is our habit and this is how we do it and the situation arises and we're on automatic. So the aim of Dzogchen is to remain in the natural state, remain in the ocean. One is no longer working with emotions or trying to do anything specific. The aim is to remain in the neutral state or the natural state. To do anything is interfering with the natural state. So you're not trying to kill the emotion or do any, you're just recognizing the emotion. You're in the ocean. You haven't, you're freaking out and you're completely gone and you lose sight of the ocean completely and you're totally in your fear and da, da, da. It's like you recognizing it. That recognition helps you to maintain some kind of stability in the ocean. You're recognizing it's a thought, but you haven't lost the ocean because the awareness of that thought is coming from the view of the ocean. It's still there. You're still there. You haven't lost it yet. You're recognizing it. You're feeling it. You're experiencing it. So, Dzogchen practice is designed to unconceal or reveal one's true condition by recognizing that one has certain undesirable characteristics and possesses varieties of uncontrolled passions. Instead of suppressing or ignoring these discrepancies, the first step is acknowledgement. We must recognize what is undesirable, suppressed feelings, contrived ideas, emotional disturbances, and so on. So recognizing those initial, and then we get into the quotes. And the first quote we have here is from Chagdu Tulku Rinpoche. And you actually, when we had part two, the path of this, it was there, but I think we should look at it again as one of the ones that we want to look at. So to understand how delusion arises, practice watching your mind. Begin by simply letting it relax without thinking of the past or the future, without feeling hope or fear about this thing or that. Let it rest comfortably, open, and natural. In this space of the mind, there is no problem, no suffering. Then something catches your attention, an image, a sound, a smell. Your mind splits into inner and outer, self and other, subject and object. In simply perceiving the object, there is still no problem. But when you zero in on it, you notice that it's big or small, white or black, square or circular, and then you make a judgment. For example, whether it's pretty or ugly. Having made that judgment, you react to it. You decide you like it or you don't like it. That's when the problem starts because I like it leads to I want it. We want to possess what we perceive to be desirable. Similarly, I don't like it leads to I don't want it. If we like something, want it, and can't have it, we suffer. If we don't want it but can't keep it away, again we suffer. Our suffering seems to occur because of the object of our desire or aversion, but that's not really so. It happens because the mind splits into object-subject duality and becomes involved in wanting or not wanting something. And so that's one of the main reasons. And then I want to take another quote here on how samsara is created and how is realization attained. And this is from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, great master. In order to conquer the high ground of the uncreated nature of mind, we must go to the source and recognize the origin of our thoughts. Otherwise, one thought gives rise to a second thought, the second to a third, and so on. We are constantly assailed by memories of the past and carried away by expectations for the future and lose all awareness of the present. It is our own mind that leads us astray into the cycle of existence. Blind to the mind's true nature, we hold fast to our thoughts, which are nothing but manifestations of that nature. This freezes awareness into solid concepts such as I and other, desirable and detestable, and plenty of others. This is how we create samsara. But if, instead of letting our thoughts solidify, we recognize their emptiness, then each thought that arises and disappears in the mind renders the realization of emptiness ever clearer. So, in other words, instead of letting your mind just go off into all directions, oh, I want that. Oh, this is this, this is this. If you recognize the thought, and it's better if you recognize it right at the beginning, as soon as it arises, because then you have more power to not be swept away with it. But that is the key right there. I also want to go to Lama Chime Mahamudra quote, which is, let me see if I can get to that. When you direct your attention inward and look at your mind, you will notice a state devoid of thought. So you're now sitting in meditation. Nothing is arising. You look at your mind, it's just devoid of thought. You're just open and present, doing your sitting meditation, just there. This is referred to as stillness. When thoughts arise in this mind, they are called movement. Now you have a thought, movement, something's moving, something's happening. And when your mind is aware of either stillness or movement, it is known as awareness. So if you're doing your meditation practice and the thought arises, you recognize it as movement. If you had recognized that there were no thoughts arising, and you can recognize both movement and stillness, then you're recognizing awareness. You're with the ocean. If you practice stillness, movement, and awareness according to the instructions of Mahamudra, you will come to see the mind's true nature, the Buddha nature, the ocean. And if you are able to sustain that awareness, you will come to discern a vital point that all experience, whether pleasant or sad, arises from and dissolves back into this mind. When you have fully experienced this, you will come to recognize all appearances as mind. Subsequently, by looking directly into the essence of your mind, regardless of whether it is moving or still, you will come to know that the myriad of thoughts that beset you are empty of any autonomous identity. This emptiness is not a space-like vacuity, but is adorned with unceasing luminosity, fully cognizant, fully conscious. Having thus unlocked mind's secret, you will have realized selflessness and become learned in all dharmas. I want to point out something right here. By looking directly into the essence of your mind, regardless of whether it is moving or still, you will come to know that the myriad thoughts that beset you are empty of any autonomous identity. When you recognize that the thoughts are just thoughts, there's no identity. You have no identity. You create your identity with the thoughts about yourself. And so when you're able to recognize thoughts, you are now free to just experience yourself without any of the ramifications or restrictions or bondage that the identity that you have within you actually has created for you because you're recognizing it's a thought. There's energy here, there's ocean, which is capable of anything in this space. And the thought will color that. But if it's a thought and you can just witness it and experience it as a thought, now you have a certain amount of freedom. If the thought carries you away and you get really sucked into it, maybe it's a really strong thought, then you lose the freedom. You lose your freedom to recognize that it is a thought and will dissolve by itself. There's, see if I can find it quickly here, where they talk about strong thoughts. So this is from Namkai Norbu. And so it comes up with whatever thought arises, we do not correct it and we do not change it. We simply remain in the presence of that state without distraction. But what should we do if the thought does not disappear, even when we observe it at the moment of its arising, because it is too strong? First of all, we should abandon our posture and relax. Then, if we are conditioned by thoughts, we allow them to flow without controlling or limiting them, but without distraction, observing what happens. In this way, it may be possible to begin to calm down. Otherwise, practice becomes a kind of struggle. This is the method because both movement and stillness are connected with the mind, and both return to their own nature. Minds dissolve into emptiness, right? Thoughts dissolve into emptiness. They're not there constantly. Thus, if the movements of the mind appear powerful and uncontrollable, and managing them almost becomes a struggle in itself, we must let them go. Nevertheless, we must observe. Thoughts wander here and there, but they cannot go anywhere and will return to their own nature, that is, to emptiness. Since every thought is always empty, in the end, every movement of the mind must return to emptiness. In this way, even a person without capacity can derive benefit by practicing with what he has received. So I thought that question was asked in one of my other classes. But what happens if you have a lot of emotional, strong thoughts and so forth? So let me see here. 55. Okay. This is from Garchen Rinpoche, who just died not too long ago. 67. Okay. Observe that which never goes away. There are many thoughts that always arise, but thoughts are impermanent. They come and go. The mind from which they arise, however, abides like space. It never comes and goes. It is always there. It is always has been there, and it will always be there. It is like space or a vast ocean or a mirror. It never goes anywhere, just like space, talking about the ocean. Therefore, do not cling to the temporary thoughts. No matter how much you cling to them, you cannot actually hold on to them, as they are impermanent by nature. Rather, observe that which never goes away, the clear knowing awareness that recognizes all the thoughts arising, the ocean. This awareness is the Buddha within you. It is your true nature. Whatever thoughts arise, negative thoughts, sadness, afflictive emotions, do not follow them, but continue to observe with mindfulness. When this mindfulness is sustained, arising thoughts will naturally dissipate without the need to abandon them. This awareness must be upheld not only in meditation sessions, but also during all your activities. No matter what you experience, happiness or suffering, it does not affect your awareness. It always is as it is. The nature is Buddha nature, and every being has it. So that, and then below that again is Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche with a short quote. When a rainbow appears vividly in the sky, you can see its beautiful colors. Yet you could not wear as clothing or put it on as an ornament. It arises through the conjunction of various factors, but there is nothing about it that can be grasped. Likewise, thoughts that arise in the mind have no tangible existence or intrinsic solidity. There is no logical reason why thoughts, which have no substance, should have so much power over you, nor is there any reason why you should become their slave. So those are two of the that I wanted to share with you. And let me see if I can. I'm sorry, I should have. So this is how do you overcome ordinary thoughts? How you overcome ordinary thoughts, you must remain mindfulness. You must maintain mindfulness and not grasp at whatever arises. No matter which emotion or thought arises, there is only one antidote, mindful awareness. No matter what arises, continue to remain within the natural state of mind. Never think it exists or this is how it is, nor think it doesn't exist or this is not how it is. Let go of all beliefs and do not hold on to anything. Only by seeing the space, like unconfined nature of mind, you will be able to destroy negative thoughts. In the true nature of mind, there's no existence or non-existence, no this or that, no truth or untruth, no good or bad, no right or wrong. All worldly affairs seem futile when you rest in this nature that abides like the expanse of space, transcending time. Dzogchen Rinpoche. So I think I'm going to leave it there for now. And what I wanted to tell you is that next time we meet next month in August, we will be listening to a series of tapes by Trungpa Rinpoche on the Song of Dzogchen. And I will, if you'll send me an email or let me know in some way, either texting me or some way, contact me, let me know, and I will send you a link where you can actually get the actual song so that you can follow the song as he has written it, or not he has written it because it was written by Mipam Rinpoche. And there will be 7 classes. We will start with the second class. The first one basically talks about Dzogchen as, and this song as being when songs are written in the Tibetan tradition, usually what they are like shortcuts. They kind of get to the heart or the meat of the matter, so to speak. And this is a very famous one. And so I think if you'll let me know that you're interested in that, I'll send you the link, or maybe I'll try to have it on the website so that you can go through that. And we'll start with the second. And so talk that he gives on that. There are a total of 8, and we start with the second one. So thank you very much. We will do, unless there's any questions that you might have. So we will end here. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings by the confidence of the golden sun of the great east. May the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.